On this episode of League Legends, we're joined by 1995 Daley winner and a Hall of Fame inductee. Laurie Daley won 3 premierships with Canberra, captain at every level of the game, and coached New South Wales to its first State of Origin Series win in 9 years. Laurie Daley, welcome to League Legends. Thanks for joining us.
No worries at all, Jake.
My first question is, how did you survive growing up in Junee with 7 sisters?
Yes, interesting. Growing up in a family of 8, 7 sisters, only boy. I was 6th in the family, so I've got a split of 5 and 2, and I was mad into my rugby league. My cousins lived next door, and they were a family of 8, but they were a family of 6 boys. So I spent the majority of my time over in their backyard. And we used to always, a lot of us go to school together, walk to school, walk home from school. You'd play cricket, you'd play rugby league, whatever sport was going. So I think the fact that we were able to play together and have that strong family unit was great for us growing up. And we're all still good mates today, even though we are family. Was it always rugby league for you? Because I know AFL is also big in the Riverina area, considering how close it is to Victoria. Yeah, I loved AFL. Used to play AFL, played rugby league as well, played cricket, and both passions. I had a passion for rugby league and a passion for AFL. But eventually rugby league won out because my mates were playing there, it was easy to play, and it was the more popular sport in Junee at the time. How quickly did you realise that rugby league might have been an avenue for you? Because you're playing first grade in Junee at 15 years old, weren't you? Yeah, I was playing as a 16-year-old, and then I started to think, wow, I'm playing first grade, only 16 years of age, there might be something here. But I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed my time in Junee, really enjoyed playing with Junee. It was a tough competition, and I remember as a kid wanting to get down to the local Junee Oval to be the ball boy, because if you got in early, you got to be the ball boy, and you got a free can of Coke and you got a free pie, but you got to run the sideline for the under-16s, under-18s, reserve grade and first grade, and you also got to go into the sheds before the reserve grade and the first grade players played, and you'd be listening to every word that the coaches were saying and what the experienced players were saying, and then when you'd go back and play in your under-12s or under-13s, you'd be using the same sort of language as they were using, and the other blokes would be looking at you, the other 13-year-olds, going, what are they talking about? Like kicking games and field positions and all that type of thing. But I used to love it. I used to soak it all up. Is that the same oval now that's the Laurie Daley Oval? Yeah, it is, yeah. What's that like? Oh, it's great. I was back there only a couple of weeks ago, and we were doing a coaching clinic for the kids in Junee. And it's a very, very weird feeling to drive through the gates knowing there's an oval that's named after you in your hometown. It's something that I never expected. You don't play football for these type of things to occur. It's certainly a great honour and a great privilege. And actually, I spent a bit of time when I was there just sort of having a look around, and the memories come floating back about, dressing sheds and canteens and ovals and where mum and dad used to park their car to watch you. So it was quite sort of emotional as well, because it was a long time ago, and to see the young kids run around there playing the sport that I loved and watching them kick a football and watching them pass and thinking, geez, I hope they get the same opportunity as me. When did the Raiders come knocking then, and how did you move from being that 16-year-old in Junee to playing professional football? Don Ferner had actually coached Junee in the 60s, and Don had made a lot of friends, obviously, from his time being in town. And I think around 85, 86, I started to make some representative teams, and then in 86 I played first grade. So a few people in Junee got hold of Don and said, listen, there's a kid down here in Junee that we think would go all right and potentially play in the NRL. So Don Ferner came down. My parents knew Don from the time that he was in June. Spoke to Don. Don at the time was the current Australian coach. And we spoke about going to Canberra. And because I was a bit of a mummy's boy and didn't really want to live too far away from home, and I knew Canberra was probably... Well, I knew Canberra was only 2.5 hours away. And I didn't really want to move to the big smoke in Sydney. So I just felt at ease knowing that going to Canberra, my mum and dad had faith and trust in Don and the Raiders that they would look after me, and they did that. And my parents were forever grateful for that. And that connection was how it all started.
Well, that's 86. 87, you're playing first grade for the Raiders. How quickly did it happen?
Oh, big thrill, Jake, big thrill. I remember my first training session walking into Seaford Oval at the time, and Don Furner was co-coach because it was Wayne Bennett's first year.
Yep.
And just walking into that dressing shed and looking at Mal Meninga, Gary Belcher, Peter Jackson, guys who 6 months earlier I had sat back, watched a couple of them on a kangaroo tour, but also watched them play for Queensland in a state of origin, cheering against them, but now in this dressing shed with them, and you were just in awe, and you didn't really know what to say to them, and you only really said g'day. They said g'day to you, which they did, but it still felt very, very, very weird. And then to play as a 17-year-old, to get an opportunity to run out there was just surreal. I mean, it was just one of the great moments of my career, knowing that I'm playing first grade, my family are all there, and yeah, you never think that you're going to do it.
Playing in that year, obviously Canberra went to the grand final in 87. You sat on the bench. What was that like?
Oh, it was amazing. For me, Jake, I didn't really know what to expect because I was given an opportunity to play a couple of games that year, and Wayne and Don said, well, we might need you at some stage, so you've got to train with the first grade team all the way through until we get knocked out. So that in itself, I just felt like it was the best thing that ever happened to me, even though I wasn't playing. I never thought I would get on in the grand final. I didn't get on, but one thing that it sticks out in my mind, I got 5 minutes in the prelim final against the Roosters, and the great Arthur Beetson was coaching the Roosters at that particular time, and to run out onto the SCG. And I remember just thinking, wow, this is what it is. This is where the big stage is, to be on the SCG in a prelim final. And I remember going back to Canberra after that game, and the airport had 10,000, 20,000 people there greeting the Raiders, and there were street parades through the week in the lead up to the grand final. I think we'd actually played our grand final before we got there on the Sunday. We gave a good performance against Manly. But I think we took a lot out of that. We learned a lot for when we got another opportunity.
You mentioned that. 89, the opportunity comes along, one of the great grand finals of all time. How many times during that game did you think you were done?
I don't think we ever thought we'll beat. It's amazing, even at half-time, how calm and cool everyone was. So I remember in the dressing shed, Mal talking, Tim Sheen's talking, and it was a real calmness and a confidence. And we went out there, and, it took us, till the 80th minute to take it into extra time, but we always were confident. It was just a matter of staying in that zone and being able to grab our moment when it presented itself. And there were some moments in that second half that presented itself, and we were good enough to take them. So
one of those moments is the Chicka Ferguson try that I think you batted back to him, didn't you?
It was sort of one of those things where we've gone from here to there. We were never going to get beaten.
And then there was a great try at the end with Steve Jackson as well.
Yeah, that was a remarkable try. He didn't get many games that year. Didn't play a lot of footy that year in first grade. Never, ever repeated. I was lucky enough to win other grand finals, play for Australia, play for my state, but nothing came close to that moment.
The celebrations afterwards, famous. There's a great shot of you in the car on the parade. You look sick.
Oh.
You look ill. Talk me through that next 24 hours.
Well, as you can imagine, Jake, it was just pandemonium. It was just, wow, we've won a grand final. And the champagne was out on the field, and I'm getting as much into me as I possibly can. And then we jump on the plane and we go back to Canberra, and we knew the reception was going to be massive, but I didn't expect the town to be there. And we're just celebrating all night. And the next day we had this parade that we had to meet at 9 o'clock and jump in these cars and go to Canberra. And I wasn't in great shape. I wanted to go home. You can't go home. So then we're in the car, and I don't know how or why or who did it, but I've ended up with the trophy. And for me, that's not great. The guy that was driving, he kept accelerating and then slowing down. Every time he did that, I was like, oh, geez, it's not good here. He starts to slow down, so I start to relax. So as I'm relaxing, I sort of take my arm away from the trophy, and then he sort of accelerates again. And I'm sort of looking and I'm thinking, geez, there's thousands of people lining the street here. If I fall off, I'm going to look like a goose, an A-grade goose. So I protect myself, but I obviously don't protect the trophy. So the trophy falls off, and then the trophy smashes, and the photos of the trophy, when we finally get to Canberra, it's got masking tape around the base, and Mal's got it wrapped in a towel like he's carrying it like a baby. You know, so it was a remarkable time and something that I'm sort of not proud of, but I look back now and laugh and have a bit of a joke about it. But yeah, I don't know why or how it ended up with me. Surely someone, you know, should have been smart enough to realise that I wasn't the person to give the trophy to.
Earlier that year, you also made your Origin debut.
Yeah, again, it was was good because it gave me an understanding of what Origin was like. I just didn't know what to expect. It was just one of these things where you go, right, playing against Queensland, I'll be able to handle it. We decided on what centre I would play, left or right. And I remember going, well, I'll play right because I'll mark Mal. And Mal's my team captain, and I know Mal really well, and, you know, it'll be okay. Everything will be okay, because I reckon he won't sort of go hard at me and he'll look after me a little bit, you know. How wrong was I? I couldn't tackle him. He left stud marks all down my front. It was an eye-opener for me. And then we got beaten. Then we had to come back to Sydney and play. We got beaten again. And then I got dropped for game 3.
The following year, you moved to 5'8". You played in the centres a little bit as well, but the switch of positions, why did that come about?
I was always a 5'8" as a young guy, but obviously going into a senior environment, there was an opportunity to play in the centres, and that's where they felt I could fit in best into the team. And we had Chris O'Sullivan, who was a mighty player, you know, a stalwart of the club, been there since day one. He then, I think he went over to England, Sully, or retired, and then I got the opportunity to move into the 5'8" role, and that's where I wanted to play. I wanted to get my hands on the football. I was a running 5'8", but I always felt more engaged in a game if I was playing at 6.
And then it worked. You guys go back-to-back in 1990.
If you compared 89 to 90, it was completely different, because 90 was 89 was just the greatest feeling moment ever had. 1990's feeling was just relief. It was just like, oh, wow. We knew we'd win, we expected to win, and then we got the monkey off our back. We went back-to-back.
If 89 was elation, 90 was relief, what was 91?
Frustrated, disappointing, and the other word that springs to mind is proud, because we got ourselves in a position to make a grand final, but we suffered a lot of injuries along the way. And there was a lot of players carrying injuries into that grand final. So just to get there was an achievement. But once you get there, you want to win it. And to come so close, we were disappointed because we still felt we could have won that game. But Penrith were just too good.
We talked about the Origin disappointment. 92 to 94. You're captaining the side. What was the feeling like in that group over those 3 years?
Very special. Phil Gould came in as coach, and he decided that he wanted to put his stamp on the group. He made a lot of changes. Part of that change was appointing a new captain, which he wanted to give to me, and he asked me about it, and I was unsure whether I was ready. I hadn't captained at that level before, or at the NRL level. I'd captained as a young guy coming through in Junee. And it was a challenge, and Gus said, just be yourself. Just be yourself. You're a guy that people will follow, and that's what I want, someone that people will follow.
The following year, you get the opportunity to captain Australia. Mal's out for a game. What was it like to lead your country and follow in the footsteps of someone like Arthur Beetson, who was the first Indigenous captain of the Kangaroos in Australia, for you to be a proud Indigenous man and come into that role as well?
It was very surreal, Jake. For me, it was something that I never actually thought about until probably a year before, because I knew Mal was sort of going to retire in 94, but this is sort of 93, and I'm sort of not even thinking about it. But I thought, if I play my cards right here, and I play some good football and lead New South Wales to victories and things like that, I possibly could become the Australian captain. So when he was out and Bozo said, mate, I'd love you to be captain, it was one of those moments where, well, I'll tell you what I did. So I got announced as captain, and Bozo spoke to me, and that was all good. And I remember going to my room, sitting in my room and thinking, how do I let Mum and Dad know? And then I went, oh, should I ring him? And then I thought, well, I'm in a hotel in Auckland. It'll cost me a fortune, so I won't ring. And then I was like, no, I'm going to ring. No, I won't. And then I remember ringing and telling them, and I could see how proud they were, and obviously they started crying, and then I start crying, and then it was, yeah, just an emotional moment.
You spoke before about Mal Meninga retiring in 94. You went on to win another comp in 94, did it pretty comfortably in the end. Was there a sense of doing it for Mal, that grand final?
It was spoken about quite a bit. As we got closer to it, we all understood the enormity of, one, trying to win another comp, two, being as good as we could on the day, and then sending the big fella out a winner. Because we know that without him going to Canberra, I don't know how successful the club would have been.
Doubleheader with a difference.
World Heavyweight Champion, the Commonwealth Boxing Champion, Benjamin Bomber,
against the super impressive Nikita Zoo.
It's going to be an epic night.
Every Toyota forklift is driven by innovation, with technology that makes your workplace safer, more efficient, more sustainable. So you can drive your business forward. Another great Toyota forklift advantage.
CRC 556, the toolkit in a can.
There was this guy, a farmer's son, a mechanic, a dreamer who was determined to build a legacy. When everyone told him it was impossible, he replied, "How do you know if you haven't tried it?" This spirit still lives on in Hyundai, the company he founded all those years ago. So don't say you can't change the world. Have you tried it?
Uno's back at Hungry Jack's. Buy any medium or large burger meal, 1 in 4 wins instantly. Win cars, cash, holidays and free food with 3 ways to win over $140 million in prizes. Play Uno at Hungry Jack's.
Following that success in 94 came 95, which was Super League.
Yeah.
When you hear those words and you think about what happened over that year, what's your immediate reaction?
Yeah, it certainly split the game. I think looking back now, it could have been done differently. You know, for us, there was 2 reasons, in particular for me. I can't speak for everyone. 2 reasons why I'd signed with Super League. One was the Raiders indicated that they were going there, and the second one, the money. You know, the money that I was going to get playing Super League far outweighed the money that I was going to get on the other side. I didn't think about the damage it would do to the game because I thought that, you know, there'd be this fight and then they'd come together. You actually didn't truly believe there'd be 2 comps.
Do you have any regrets about what you did or how you would do things if you could do them again?
Yeah, there's always sort of things that you'd like to do again. There's things that you'd like to change. I regret probably the fact that it was all about money at the time. I probably should have considered a lot of other things and how sort of ruthless it looked. I remember talking to my old man who was a train driver and talking to him about the money that was on offer and him saying, you know, sort of wake up yourself, you know, I'm earning $40,000, $50,000 driving a train, feeding 8 kids and not that I was sort of celebrating the fact that I was going to earn a lot of money, but it was the way I was sort of going about it. I think I was sort of getting carried away. So that sort of discussion sort of brought me back to earth a little bit. So yeah, there's things that you take back, but you know, you can't look back and think, well, I'm going to change it because you can't.
Considering everything that went on that year and with all of it going on in the background, it didn't affect your football. You won a Daley M that year.
Yeah, no, I was pretty determined to play well, and that was something that we'd spoke about as a group. And I think during the regular season, I think we only lost 2 or 3 games. So we were, along with Manly, the standout sort of team. But yeah, individually, I had a good year. But it was something that I've always sort of managed to do. If I had sort of distractions off the field, I was always felt more comfortable on the field and then trying to play good football and sort of let that do my talking. So that was sort of probably an example of that, trying to stay focused on the football because we were copying it left, right and centre. But my release from all that was to get on the field and just play.
A couple of years later, you played your final State of Origin game, 1999. First game at the brand new Homebush Stadium for the Olympics the year after. Did a lap of honour as well with ET and Chief. Where does that sit in career highlights, that moment?
Yeah, a great moment because I knew that my body was, you know, giving out on me. I knew that my knee wasn't coping with the workload. It wasn't coping with the rigours of day in, day out training. And I knew that my time playing at the representative level was coming to an end because I just couldn't compete as well as I wanted to. To do it with Chief and to do it with ET was pretty special because they're legends of the game and legends in New South Wales. And to win that game at the stadium was great because there was a full house, it was raining, scored a try, got man of the match. So for me, it all sort of created this feeling of, yeah, I've done everything I could for New South Wales on the field. I leave now knowing that I've given it everything I've got one final year as a NRL player, and that's what I wanted to devote my time to.
What was that final year like?
It was a strange sort of feeling, Jake, because I was contracted until 2002. I knew in '99 that possibly next year was going to be my last. And just one morning, and we were playing the game, and I just woke up going, geez, I don't feel like playing today. And I went, wow, gee, I've never had that before. I've never had it. I remember sort of waking up and it was cold, and I went, oh, I don't really feel like it today. Played, spoke to the CEO the next day, and I said, mate, I don't think my heart's there. I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can go on. And he said, well, have a think about it and come and see me. So I thought about it for 24 hours. I went back and said, yeah, no, I'm gone, I'm dusted. I said, I can get through to the end of the year, but I don't think I can go on. So anyhow, we decided that, yeah, we'll call a press conference and announce it. And it was sort of great relief to know that I could see the finish line, because for the rest of the year I got excited about my footy. But by the end of it, I'd run my race. I was buggered, and I achieved everything I wanted to, everything I could have, and exceeded all expectations.
Post-playing, you had some great moments as well. I want to ask about the Gus Gould chair incident, which everyone loves, is one of the great moments in Origin history.
I was going to sue Gus for that. I didn't know about internet sensation. My kids came home one day and said, Dad, you're an internet sensation.
You might have been one of the first.
And I said, what do you mean? And they said, well, there's this video going around of you on the sideline in an Origin game with a chair. And I'm sort of thinking, Origin game with a chair? Did I kick a chair? Did I slip off a chair? What is it? And then they actually showed me the clip. And I started laughing, and I thought, yeah, I can understand why people are watching this, laughing, taking the mickey out of me. And it gets played and it gets brought up wherever I go.
It's a wonderful career, Laurie, over playing, coaching. But if you could sum it up and look at, I guess, the legacy that Laurie Daley's left on rugby league, what do you think it is?
I'm hoping, Jake, that, you know, if anyone knows my story, a proud Wiradjuri man from Junee, never thinking that I'd get an opportunity to play in the NRL. Kicking a football around in the backyard can lead to you having success, or whatever sport you play, regardless of where you're from, what your background is, you can achieve. And hopefully people see that in themselves, and hopefully they go, you know what, that's my dream, that's my passion, whatever it is, whether it's sport, whether it's work, I can achieve. And if I work hard, I can do it.
Laurie Daley, thank you so much for joining League Legends. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Jake.
This has been a Fox Sports production.